It's been said that, well, back in August of this year, I pointed out at a press conference, which I held, counter to Horman's lawyer and the children's lawyer, I pointed out that they were having a press conference and asking for money for GoFundMe funds, and their client didn't show up. I held a counter press conference and I pointed out that Mrs. Horman, Mrs. Elder, was certainly aware of the vast number of prostitutes, sex workers, whatever they were called by the police, who were servicing Rex Horman in his house over the course of years, and she was well aware of it. And by that, she should have fallen into the circle of suspects in the case. Not that she was guilty, but she should have fallen into the circle of suspects and not exonerated like the district attorney at Diamond is doing in this application. I made that point. I took a lot of heat for doing that. A lot of tough people came down on me because I said that, and especially because it implicated possibly children. So we come now to this. By the way, the district attorney in his application admitted that even in the last 2 years, Horman had been soliciting hundreds and hundreds of sex workers just in the last 2 years in his cell phones that they found, many cell phones they was using, the throwaway phones. And his wife supposedly knows nothing about that, and his child who lives there in a 1,343 square foot house, which is like a mini bungalow, didn't notice it. That's absurd. Anyway, here we have an exoneration of them by the DA of the family based upon this record that you see up there that supposedly shows they were in Atlantic City. First thing to note, the 3 hotels that are mentioned up there, you'll notice there's another one called Tropicana, where there's what appears to be somewhat of a contradictory stay, looking at the dates. All 3 of them are timeshares. I checked them out. We investigated. They're all 3 timeshares. They're not just ordinary hotels. People can come and go in the timeshares very easily. It's not like a hotel stay. Notice something else that's peculiar. I'm going to read it to you again and tell me what you think. The task force was able to corroborate that Mrs. Eller and her 2 children stayed in Atlantic City, New Jersey from on or about July 6, 2007 through on or about July 20th, 2007. If the district attorney is trying to establish that these people they had a completely 100% solid alibi for those periods of time, don't you think on or about is a very unusual phrase to use? That's a lawyer's phrase. To say it might have been July 6th, and then again it could be July 7th, it could be July 8th. What's on or about? What are those phrases doing twice in that application? The application should say on July 6th, such and such happened. On July 20th, such and such happened. Not on or about. About means that they're not sure. How does that then exonerate them? Remember something else before I hit the main point. I haven't got to the main point. Remember that Rex Horman is a torturer. And the DA says so repeatedly in this application, how he would look at all these horrible torture films and so on of women. And by the way, when you look at his, I digress, but when you look at his The sites that he looked at, that are listed here, the sex sites that he looked at, the vast majority, when they deal with children, are all sites and that appear to be similar to his daughter. And the picture that they find in his basement is a picture that looks, a beat-up woman that looks a lot like his daughter. Even describing blonde hair in some of the porn sites that they use and so forth. A point to be made. But back to the main point. On or about doesn't count. The torturers keep people alive so they can enjoy the torture, especially this guy, who had abilities to keep these bodies in all kinds of places, including in his basement, while they were still alive, or his storage units, where you could fit a whole unit inside a unit. His storage units were so big. So when did these girls die? On or about July 9th? On or about July 9th? Could be July 13th. Could be July 6th. I don't know. Anyway, look now at those entries. And take a look at the flagship hotel entry. Notice the transaction date is July 14th. Bear with me.